Good afternoon. In this video, we're going to go over this week's options watch list. Before I get into the watch list, if you're not in the room, you can find the link in the description of the video and in my bio section of social media accounts. Also, please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. I know my voice probably sounds terrible. I'm kind of getting a cold or have a cold, getting over it. So just bear with me. A couple of things I want to bring up is the put to call ratio is very, very high. The highest it's been since March 2020, which was the COVID crash. Thinking we get a monster short squeeze tomorrow, Tuesday. I'll have to see what happens. This put the call ratio definitely needs to cool down. It does not stay up this high. I mean, look at the last time it's got over 80.85. It just gets shut down. So as you can see, like the weekly, look at the weekly highest it's been for the last 2 years. So you can. This is a COVID crash right here, where it went high. I mean, definitely can go higher. So don't get me wrong, but I'm thinking we're gonna get a short squeeze. SPY retested this 362 area, 363 area, and it bounced off that. So we'll have to see what happens on where it opens up tomorrow. But I'm thinking we bounce here. We could probably get a retest at the 385 or 390 area before we go lower. If we go lower, so take it one day at a time. So that's the game plan tomorrow. Hopefully we don't have like a $5 gap up tomorrow or Tuesday or whatever, which day it happens, because I really hate the monster gap ups, because that really does change the dynamic of the play. But we give a gap fill right here, the 372 area, 373. So I'm thinking if we can get some momentum going, we could definitely see 380, 385, and 390. 390 would be pretty hard to get to, but I mean, SPY could just go ridiculous tomorrow. When it has these short squeeze days, we can end up seeing a, let's see, this 398. You can definitely see a $10-15 day easily out of SPY tomorrow, so, or the next day. So be prepared for that. Too many people are too bearish. I'm not saying that this is the bottom. I'm just saying it could be like a dead cat bounce, just to cool down the put to call ratio and the oversold indicator. So I don't think that will go. We'll probably end up going lower, but we're just going to take it one day at a time. We're not going to predict the bottom, because it's just bullish too right at this point. So that's why I wanted to bring the put to call ratio up. I think that's going to be a huge factor in the next day or two. So definitely watching SPY for a bounce. Like I said, 380, 385, 390, 395, even 400. We get a gap fill up here at 400, 410. So I'll have to see if it will does that or not. I mean, look at the daily RSI is below 30, and that hasn't done that. And it almost did right here. It almost did it here. It came close, but it's actually under 30. So hourly, look at the hourly. It's what, then went down to 20. Ridiculous. The indicators need to cool off. COVID crash was down here. Last time it was the put the call ratio was this high, and we had that monster day next day rally. But that's when the Fed dropped their nuke, saying they were gonna buy up all this stuff and get involved. And this whole rally has been nothing much more than the Fed buying into everything. So, but the economic calendar for the week. A few things to point out. We have Powell speaking at 7:30 a.m. on Tuesday. We get consumer confidence on Tuesday at 10 a.m. So pre-market in the morning on Tuesday could be interesting. We got Powell again at 10:15 on Wednesday. And we get our daily Fed members speaking every day, you know, like Bullard and Mester and those guys are always speaking. But yeah, Powell 10:15 on Wednesday. And then we got unemployment claims on Thursday morning. And Friday, we got core price index and revised consumer sentiment at 10 o'clock. So we get some interesting things happening for news and speakers. So we have to keep an eye on that in the Times. And I would check it every morning. I do every morning because sometimes Powell won't be speaking. Then all of a sudden he's on the docket. So that's why I check every morning before in pre-market to see if anything's changed, because things do change day by day. So definitely check the economic calendar every morning pre-market. I already said my piece with the SPY, what I think is going to happen with that. VIX, I just want to pull it up. I mean, VIX had this trend line right here, the 30, rejected 32, but yeah, it's got this weekly trend line right here. So you can see it right here on the weekly. It rejected that harshly. I wouldn't be a bit surprised if we end up seeing VIX below 25 this week before it bounces again. We'll have to see what happens. But other things I want to watch out for is Home Depot. Now, Home Depot, it bounced over here last time. I mean, obviously, this is going to be very highly dependent on what SPY does. So, I had a nice green candle on Friday. If it does manage to get over Friday's high of round up to 272, 275, 280, gets over 280, we could actually see a stronger move, 285, 290, even 295 out of Home Depot. And so we'll have to see. But, I mean, it can get lower, it can go lower to 250. It's all going to be very dependent on SPY. I mean, you also get this head and shoulders here, so I'd be cautious about that. You get the left, the head, and the right shoulder. So it does get below 265. It could end up dropping to 250. 250 is going to be a pretty big, significant level. So I'm almost watch Home Depot at 252 if it does drop more. Sorry, my voice is just cracking like crazy. Costco. The next one to watch is Costco. You get this 465 area right here, gap resistance right here. Resistance, support. It did go below 365 a little bit. It had earnings. So definitely keep an eye on the 465 area. To me, it just seems like it's getting pretty oversold on the weekly, but it could definitely go lower. I'm just thinking, okay, if it does go lower, 450 would be the area to watch. Obviously, it's going to be very dependent on SPY. Usually when you have these big, nasty red candles on Costco, that they end up getting bought shortly after. I mean, look at this dump right here, and it got bought right at the RCT trend line. Then it got this hammered down. It got hammered down pretty significantly right here. But it bounced back up. So I'm going to kind of watch it right around the 450 level, but I would watch it over Friday's highs too. Say 470 for a push to 490, 500. But if it does drop more, I'd definitely be interested in looking at it around 450 because this is a pretty big area, as you can see on the weekly right here. It bounced. It did flush through, but it did get bought back up right here. It bounced too. So 450. Be looking at it and over 470 on the hourly. So on Costco. Now Tesla is another one. Tesla's starting to look kind of ugly here. I mean, it is trying to hold the 270 area. My mind is just off, so bear with me. 270 right here. It did get, what was the low in this candle? 272. So it didn't get quite down to 270, but the RCT trend line is right down here at 263. So, I mean, the hourly is oversold. It could bounce a little bit. It could bounce to 280, but I would watch it underneath the 270 area for a push to 265 or even 260. This RCT trend line ends up acting as a magnet, and if the market ends up diving more, or if it does have a dead cat bounce and it does end up diving more later in the week, then I would definitely watch it underneath this candle low right here of 270. I mean, also look at the weekly. It's getting shut down at 300. And so we'll have to see if it does and manage to break below this 270. And if it does, I mean, we could see 250 pretty quickly. And if it does break 250, I can see what 250 is right here, 240, 235, 230. 220. So yeah, I mean, that's what I'm looking at right here. I think that we could end up falling through on Tesla. The reason I keep thinking that is the weekly. It's really battling that 300 and getting shut down on the weekly. So I mean, it does. I mean, on the daily, it is getting above it, closing above it, but it doesn't stay above it very long. So I'll definitely keep an eye on Tesla. Microsoft. I know I was watching it under 250, and I thought we'd get another bounce, but one of the things I was looking at on the weekly was that every time Microsoft gets down to the bottom of the Keltner channel on the weekly, it bounces. It touched it, bounced, touched, bounce, touched, bounce, touched, bounce, touched, bounce, and now we're touching it again. So definitely keep an eye on Microsoft. It did touch the lower Keltner channel on the weekly. When it does do that, it does sometimes. Well, it has been bouncing, so it doesn't mean jump in calls and just go after it blindly. I would watch it over 240 for push to 245, 250, 255, 260's gap resistance. It does break that. We get a gap fill right here, 265, 270. So we get some room on Microsoft to bounce. Usually when it bounces off the bottom of the Keltner channel, it bounces to the 20 EMA, which is the white line on the weekly. So that's what I'd be anticipating as a bounce to 265, which is right where gap resistance is, or gap fill is. So I would likely think it's going to reject gap resistance at 260 before it fills the gap, because it doesn't usually go and fill the gap right off the bat, especially when it's dropped this much. It will make a run up to it, and we'll test it, then it'll pull back, and then make either a cup and handle or inverted head and shoulders. Then it'll make a run for the gap fill. Now, if it gapped down and the price was sticking around the 250 plus area, 255 plus, yeah, I could fill the gap right on the first shot because it's right there. But when it's gapped down this much, it doesn't usually do it on the first shot. So not much of a watch list. I think that a lot of it's going to be very dependent on what happens this week, and I'm anticipating, like I said earlier in the video, a dead cat bounce, at least a day or two for SPY to cool off the indicators and the oversold conditions, and so take it day by day. Hopefully there'll be no massive gap ups, because I really hate that. Anyways, that's going to do it for the watch list, and hope to see you in your room. Thanks for watching.